call Eugenie Sage.
E te mangai o te whare tēnā koe. Tuarua ki ngā mema o tō tātou whare, tēnā koutou katoa. The Green Party is very pleased to be supporting the Kermadec Ocean Sanctuary Bill, establishing a new marine reserve in New Zealand's exclusive economic zone around the Kermadec Islands. And we've had a private members' bill in the ballot prepared by Gareth Hughes for some time to establish a marine protected area at the Kermadecs. And we congratulated the government when it announced its intention to create this ocean sanctuary at the United Nations in the run-up to an International Oceans Conference last year. So we're very pleased to support the bill. And as with Scott Simpson, I've never been to the Kermadecs, but everything I have read about this island chain and the photographs I've seen show that it is an extraordinary place of enormous significance to all humankind, not just Aotearoa, because of its biodiversity, geological and cultural values. And its remoteness has protected it from the impacts of fishing, from mining, so as others have said, it remains one of the most pristine places on the planet. And it's also important because of the complexity of the deep sea marine habitats that are there. It includes a 12,000 kilometre section of the longest volcanic arc in the world, which extends from the Bay of Plenty up towards Tonga. You've got two tectonic plates colliding, and that means we've got this arc of underwater volcanoes, active hydrothermal vents, and these dramatic features like the black smoker chimneys. And those hydrothermal vents produce quite extraordinary conditions where you've got quite strange organisms flourishing in those dark depths in superheated water where there are quite high levels of quite toxic compounds. We've got in the Kermadecs the second deepest ocean trench in the world, extending up to 10 kilometres deep. And Mr. Speaker, it's really surprising to think that fish can live at that depth. Scientists have found fish living at 8 kilometres depth, and they've got amazing adaptations to be able to live in darkness and that at the extreme pressure that you get at those depths. So even though we've had quite a lot more scientific exploration of recent years, the Kermadec still remains one of the least understood habitats on the planet. It's an important area for marine mammals with blue whales, fin whales and humpback whales migrating through the region en route to and from their summer feeding grounds in the Antarctic. They're a really important place for seabirds, with at least 14 seabird species breeding on the Kermadec Islands and another 28 species using the oceans around the Kermadecs to feed. And ornithologist Chris Gaskin described arriving at Macaulay Island, and he said there were hundreds and thousands of black-winged petrels milling about over the islands. That must have been an astonishing sight. And as Forest and Bird, one of the champions of the Kermadec Sanctuary, along with the Pew Charitable Trusts and WWF New Zealand, has noted, it's one of the only places in New Zealand where you get both tropical, subtropical and temperate species of birds, whales, turtles, fish, corals and other marine invertebrates living together. So this whole constellation of biological and geological values means that we would encourage the Minister, when the bill is passed, to consider nominating the Kermadecs for World Heritage status to recognise their importance for all humankind. Mr. Speaker, this bill is significant because while we have the fourth largest EEZ in the world and an EEZ which is 15 times the size of our land mass, at the moment we don't have any effective marine protected areas in it other than the benthic protected areas, which of course don't protect the water column. So in New Zealand waters, in our marine environment, less than 0.5% of our territorial sea and EEZ combined is protected. As the Minister has noted, this bill will increase that to 15%, and that's why it's important, particularly with the prohibition on fishing, on mining, and the Department of Conservation managing the reserve and the EPA managing any applications for research for non-scientific purposes, or for scientific purposes. There was one concern. The departmental disclosure statement did note that because of the secrecy around the project, there wasn't engagement with Māori interests prior to it being announced, and that was disappointing. But we note that there has been extensive consultation with Ngāti Kuri and Te Aupuri subsequently. Te Ohu Kaimoana has raised a concern about the potential impact on fishing rights allocated to iwi under the fisheries settlement, but I would note that there has been no fishing undertaken in the Kermadec region using the settlement quota in the past 10 years, so Te Ohu Kaimoana seems concerned about the potential fishing rights rather than the actual ones, and the biodiversity values far outweigh the fishing values. So other countries in the Pacific have also recognised the importance of large, fully protected marine areas to preserve biodiversity, to provide a safe haven for species, and to do what Scott Simpson suggested of ensuring that there are large areas that remain in their natural state for future generations. We've seen Australia protect nearly 1 million square kilometres in the Coral Sea, and New Caledonia protect 1.3 million square kilometres in the Coral Sea. So the major concern we have, not with this proposal, but the accompanying proposals of the government to reform the Marine Reserves Act, are that the Kermadec seems to be it. Yes, it certainly raises the extent of marine protected areas from 0.4% to 15%, but the Kermadec is largely subtropical and tropical. The Kermadec Ocean Sanctuary won't protect representative examples of our subantarctic marine habitats and the species that inhabit those. We need to see in our new marine protected areas legislation the ability to create more marine protected areas in our EEZ, not just having that done by special legislation such as this bill. And Mr. Speaker, that's because the Minister's referred to 10% of the marine environment being the target. Scientists internationally have referred to the desirability of having 30% of our marine environment protected in order to ensure that we have healthy seas, that we conserve our fish stocks, and that we provide protect important habitats for seabirds, marine mammals, fish and marine invertebrates. So 30% is a much more appropriate target, and the Marine Protected Areas reform will not provide a simple process to have further marine protected areas created in the EEZ. And we understand that that's been because of the opposition of the oil drilling and gas industry, but the value of our deep oceans is in conserving species that we have only just begun to understand. Scientists are still finding and describing new species in areas like the Kermadec. We understand probably more about areas of outer space than we do of our deep, deep oceans at the bottom of the trench. So we need to protect not just the Kermadec, but to have a process to establish other deep sea marine protected areas. And that's why there have been several thousand submissions on the government's consultation document seeking that there be such a process. So this bill is a very good one, which the Green Party is pleased to support, but we need a clear process that will provide for not just the subantarctics to be protected, not just the subtropics to be protected, but also representative examples of all of our deep ocean habitats, given that we have got such a large EEZ and we've got a responsibility to the world to protect that, not just leave much of it open for fishing, mining, drilling and exploitation. Thank you.